In this video, we will focus on one of the forms of energy, electrical energy or electricity, an important subsector of energy. We find this subsector important because we consider electricity to be the backbone of the modern industrial society. In the Philippines, the electricity sector can be divided into four. Generation is where electricity is generated from your primary sources like non-renewables like coal, oil or natural gas, or renewables like solar, wind, geothermal, hydro, etc. Electricity generation is carried out in power plants or power stations. Next is transmission. Transmission is the movement of electricity at very high voltages to an electrical substation. Once it is in the electrical substation, it goes to the distribution sector. The distribution is the final stage in the delivery of electric power to consumers or end users. Here is also where you step down the voltage from high voltage to, let's say, 220 volts for residential sector in the Philippines. Lastly is the supply sector. For bigger energy consumers, like commercial buildings or malls or industries, they can actually select where they can buy electricity. For these large consumers, called contestable customers, they can buy electricity through the supply sector. Contrasting that to small consumers, like in the residential level, where they cannot buy electricity to wherever they want, and they just take electricity from their distributors. So for example, in the residential sector, let's say in Metro Manila, they have no choice but to get their grid electricity from Meralco. Note that the IPIRA Law of 2001 and IPIRA stands for Electric Power Industry Reform Act established the supply sector. So therefore, there was no supply sector before IPIRA. This shows the difference in the electricity sector before and after IPIRA. As mentioned, the supply sector was created. Also, the wholesale electricity spot market or the WESM was created. We will not discuss WESM in this video. Additionally, generation became privatized and competitive after IPIRA. And finally, transmission is still for privatization. The next few charts are some highlights of the electricity sector in the Philippines. First, let's look at the total installed capacity in megawatts as of 2019. First of all, what does installed capacity means? This is the output of the power plant which it can continuously supply under normal operating conditions. So as of 2019, the installed capacity of the Philippine power sector is around 40% coal. The others with significant capacities are oil, biomass, and natural gas. The share of renewable energy in the installed capacity is about 29%. We've looked at the installed capacity, but what about the actual electricity generation? In 2019, more than half, which is about 55%, of our total electricity generated is from coal, followed by natural gas, another fossil fuel, at 21%. The share of renewable energy in 2019 electricity generation is about 21%. Let us also take a look at the historical installed capacity and let us focus in the last 10 years. Again, the units of installed capacity is megawatts. The total installed capacity is increasing, and this makes sense because we have a growing electricity demand due to our increasing population and increasing economic growth. With the exemption of geothermal, we have increasing installed capacity from all types of power plants. This means that we build more and more power plants to sustain our growing need for electricity. How about historical electricity generation in megawatt hour? The trends differ in each of our energy supply. So we have relatively flat electricity generation from geothermal and hydro. We have declining generation from oil. We have increasing generation from coal, but the good thing is there's also an increasing generation from renewable energy sources like biomass, solar, and wind. However, despite the increasing generation from renewable energy, the share of renewable energy in the total generation is decreasing. It is currently at 21%, as I mentioned in the previous slide, but it is about 33% a decade ago. This is because of the rapid increase in coal power plant installation and generation in the past few years. Let us also take a look at our electricity generation by grid. Most of our total electricity is from Luzon at about 72% as of 2019. How about the end users of electricity? The highest is from the residential sector at 28.8%, followed by the industrial sector at 26.6% and commercial sector at 24%. To summarize, the electricity sector is important because it is the backbone of the modern industrial society. The EPIRA Law of 2001 is a landmark reform that aims to achieve reliable and competitively priced electricity in the country. The Philippine electricity sector, post-EPIRA, is composed of generation, transmission, distribution, and supply. Electricity generation in the country is still dominated by non-renewables, particularly coal and natural gas. Electricity generation from renewable energy is small but rapidly increasing in the past few years. In the next video, we will discuss the current energy challenges that we are facing, and we'll also take a look at some policies in place to address those challenges.